Daniel's move to Red Bull is all but confirmed now. Mercedes' big mistake has been explained, and Red Bull needs big upgrades to the car or drivers to keep rivals at bay. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get straight into the latest F1 news. Believing he had missed out on a deserved reward of points at Spa, Daniel Ricciardo would indeed make the top 10 after George Russell suffered disqualification. P11 on the road, VCarb's Ricciardo was set to be the highest of the non-point scorers at Spa, but the disqualification of Belgian Grand Prix winner Russell after the checkered flag meant that Ricciardo indeed picked up a point in P10. Russell saw his win expunged from the record books after his Mercedes W15 was found to be 1.5 kilo under the weight limit, promoting Ricciardo to P10 to score a point in the final race before the summer break, a pause in the action which could produce major implications for Ricciardo's F1 career. Ricciardo and Red Bull reserve Liam Lawson are contenders to replace the struggling Sergio Perez at Red Bull, should they choose to axe the Mexican over the summer break. Media understands that Ricciardo and Lawson will feature in a VCarb filming day at Imola on July 31st, with an eye to monitoring the pace of both. And for Ricciardo, this third points finish in his last 6 races will do his Red Bull return chances no harm at all. Speaking to media after the race, Ricciardo said he had expected to be in the points, so was disappointed to initially miss out, Russell's disqualification later promoting him to the top 10. "It was hard because I knew some cars were going to try a one-stop," he said. "I didn't really know my position during the race and I knew it would kind of all work out. And in my head I was kind of saying, get a piece of Lance Stroll. I know there's some kind of quick cars not too far ahead. So I really thought we would have ended up in the points. When I had Esteban Ocon behind me, I think that's when I knew I was 10th and I was like, I really thought I was maybe 9th. Because I knew that holding him off was going to be tricky. I think he was strong all weekend and also, he just came out on fresher tires. So once he got past, I knew we'd just missed out on points. I tried to stay with him, but look, put it this way, I think we had a really good race. I just think some other drivers also had a really good race." Ricciardo was the only driver to start the race on soft tires, much to his surprise, as he repeated his belief that he and VCarb drove a good race. "I was very surprised we were the only one," said Ricciardo in reference to starting on the softs. "I think it obviously stopped us from maybe attempting a one-stop, but I was able to stay with the guys on mediums in the first stint, so for the two-stop it didn't change too much in the end. I feel like every time we pitted, I think we were able to undercut a car and then get a bit of track position and hold it. So yeah, we started to make some moves, we got a couple of positions up, so I think we did have a good race, just unfortunately didn't get rewarded." With that reward ultimately arriving, Ricciardo moves up to 12 points for the F1 2024 campaign so far. Hours after George Russell claimed victory at Spa-Francorchamps after a thrilling race, the FIA disqualified the Mercedes driver. Here's why. Having claimed his 4th F1 race victory in Sunday's Belgian Grand Prix, Russell was cruelly stripped of his win hours after the race, with the FIA stewards finding the 63 Mercedes to have been underweight. With high tire degradation expected in the Belgian Grand Prix, George Russell pitted at the end of lap 10 to swap from his medium tires to a set of hards. With the majority of the frontrunners employing a two-stop strategy, Russell began planting the seed of trying to eke out his tires as he suggested a one-stop over team radio. As the laps ticked by and others, including teammate Lewis Hamilton, pitted for another set of tires, Russell moved into a decisive lead, but the question mark was whether he could massage his tires home with sufficient pace to hold off the fast-charging Hamilton and McLaren's Oscar Piastri as the duo used their fresher tires to pursue. Lap after lap, Hamilton and Piastri closed in on Russell, but ultimately fell just shy of being able to mount a full-on attack on Russell's lead, despite finishing within DRS range, the British driver logging his 4th win in F1 in impressive fashion. But word filtered through 2 hours after the race. The post-race scrutineering processes had revealed that Russell's car was below the minimum weight limit. F1 cars, while completely empty of fuel, together with the weight of the drivers, including helmets, overalls, hands devices, and all their racing accoutrements, must weigh 7 to 98 kilograms. The figure for Russell in his car was just shy of that, 1.5 kilograms below, at 796.5 kilograms. The FIA checked the calibration of both of their weighing scales, the scales built inside their garage at Spa-Francorchamps, as well as the one outside, but both yielded the same figure of 796.5 kilograms. With no alternative, given the breach of the technical regulations decreeing 798 kilograms, the stewards summoned Mercedes representatives on the grounds of an alleged breach of Article 4.1 of the technical regulations. This article states, "The mass of the car without fuel must not be less than 798 kg at all times during the competition. If, when required for checking, a car is not already fitted with dry weather tires, its mass will be determined using a set of dry weather tires selected by the FIA technical delegate." The meeting of Mercedes with the stewards was to ensure that all processes were checked to the satisfaction of both parties, as well as evaluate the possibility of mitigating circumstances. An example of this could include damage to the car that resulted in the loss of bodywork and its resulting weight. But the stewards' verdict was released quickly, with the issue quite clear-cut as Mercedes agreed the scales were correct and that there were no mitigating circumstances. Russell's car was simply underweight by 1.5 kilograms, and as a consequence, was disqualified. The result promoted Russell's Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton to the win, with Oscar Piastri second for McLaren, and Ferrari's Charles Leclerc in third. While unconfirmed at this point, a likely candidate for the car being 1.5 kilograms underweight is the tires. Having run far longer than expected on his hard set, more rubber would have worn off the 4 tires than expected, particularly pertinent as the one-stop strategy was not the initial plan for Russell. This itself would add up to a few hundred grams, and this would have been exacerbated by the lack of cool-down lap at Spa-Francorchamps. Usually, when drivers finish a race, they perform a full lap of the track, giving them the chance to drive over all the discarded rubber marbles from the race and getting all the detritus to stick to their hot tires to add on a little bit of weight. However, with Spa being over 5 kilometers long, there is no cool-down lap. The drivers simply turn around at La Source hairpin and drive backwards up the pit lane to Parc Ferme, meaning their tires remain clean. It's heartbreaking. Russell posted on social media after confirmation of his disqualification. "We came in 1.5 kg underweight and have been disqualified from the race. We left it all on the track today and I take pride in crossing the line first. There will be more to come." Mercedes released a statement regarding the disqualification, admitting its culpability for the issue. "We have to take our disqualification on the chin," the Austrian said. "We have clearly made a mistake and need to ensure we learn from it. We will go away, evaluate what happened, and understand what went wrong. To lose a 1-2 is frustrating, and we can only apologize to George, who drove such a strong race. Lewis is, of course, promoted to P1. He was the fastest guy on the 2-stop and is a deserving winner. Despite the disqualification, there are many positives we can take from this weekend. We had a car that was the benchmark in today's race across 2 different strategies. Only a few months ago, that would have been inconceivable. We head into the summer break having won 3 of the past 4 races. We will look to come back after shutdown rejuvenated and with the aim of maintaining our positive trajectory." The Belgian Grand Prix had been pegged as the critical race set to determine Sergio Perez's future with Red Bull Racing, and the Mexican racer rocketed down the finishing order after starting second. Sergio Perez's future has been in doubt ever since he signed a contract extension with Red Bull Racing, but after a disappointing conclusion to the Belgian Grand Prix, the Mexican driver still asserts his confidence that he'll remain with the team come Zandvoort. Sergio Perez started from second on the grid heading into the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix, but the Mexican driver's race quickly fell apart. "It was a very disappointing race," Perez told assembled media after the Belgian Grand Prix. "I will say I was just struggling a lot in the race. I don't know what was going on, but had to save battery early on in the first couple of laps, and it was just very weak on the straights. Once I managed to clear it, charge it back a bit, I was pretty much the same as Lewis and Charles. I was staying there. However, the race continued to fall apart. But then the second stint, jumping onto the medium tire with all the traffic behind, it just made it really, really difficult. Very tricky," Perez said. "We did quite a shorter stint as well. We were just out of sync, I think. We were just not good with tires today. Balance wasn't there as well. Plenty of things to analyze on our side." The trouble saw Perez drop down the running order throughout the race. In the closing laps, the Mexican driver was called into the pits in order to swap to soft tires and attempt to set the fastest lap and gain that crucial extra point. But it was small consolation for an overall challenging event. "There are plenty of things we need to analyze," Perez admitted. "I think Mercedes' pace was very impressive. We couldn't match the Ferraris either. I don't know why we went so short. I think we were obviously very compromised by having just 2 sets of mediums. So I think it was not a perfect execution. It's something that we will get together as a team and obviously understand and learn from it. But there is already allegedly a meeting on the books heading into this summer break. A meeting about Perez's future with the team. In pre-race media availability, Perez confirmed to media that he was 100% sure he would remain a driver with Red Bull Racing when the Formula One season reconvenes at Zandvoort in late August, and Perez doubled down on that sentiment after the Belgian Grand Prix as well. When asked if he was confident he'd remain at Red Bull, the Mexican driver responded, "Correct. Yesterday I had a good qualifying, a good day. It doesn't change anything," Perez elaborated. "I think we have too much going on in the team. A lot of things that we have to focus on, and we cannot waste any energy with all this speculation around it. So this is the last time I will speak about the future. To make it clear for everyone, I will not be speaking anymore. I will not answer any more questions on the future. Is Perez's confidence justified? We won't have a definitive answer until Red Bull Racing itself makes a statement on the future of Max Verstappen's teammate. But Perez certainly seems assured that he'll finish out the season in an RB20. Williams' James Vowles says he's hopeful of confirming his second driver over the coming days, with Carlos Sainz the key target. The team boss at Williams has been completely transparent in his desire to secure the services of Carlos Sainz, with the Spaniard the hottest available prospect on the driver market as he leaves Ferrari at the conclusion of the 2024 season. Speaking to select media ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix, Vowles addressed the topic of drivers for the 2025 season as speculation swirls the Spaniard has already signed for the Grove-based squad. Media spotted Sainz's father, Carlos Sr., and manager Carlos Honoro exiting the Williams motorhome during the weekend at Spa-Francorchamps, and Vowles made no secret of the fact he's hopeful of tempting Sainz to sign on the dotted line for 2025. With the summer shutdown coming into effect on the Friday following the Belgian Grand Prix, Vowles said he's hopeful of having the deal in place and ready to confirm by then. Tentatively, yes. I think I've already said before going into the summer break, yes, he said. I think there's a line in the sand that I've created, and I hope it's one that we remain within. Elaborating on his desire to have Sainz on his team as a replacement for the struggling Logan Sargent, Vowles spoke of Sainz's Singapore win last year as being indicative of the level of driving he would bring to Williams. I'm open-minded, but I want excellence within the team. I want excellence from the team and race-winning performance within the team, he said. I want individuals that are leaders and, in other words, they're established on their way here. So out of all those, at the top of the list is Carlos. In adversity last year, he won a race, and he did it in a very intelligent way against some of the best individuals. That includes Lando and Charles. He beat them, and he brings excellence along with him. That is where my heart is set. And let's see if the journeys collide. As for what is holding up securing Sainz, Vowles addressed the tug-of-war that is currently being played out behind the scenes as Sainz weighs up the prospect of joining Sauber ahead of its takeover by Audi for the 2026 season. Alpine is also understood to be a leading candidate for Sainz's services. Speaking about the conversations he and Sainz have had already, Vowles said he's been very impressed by the deliberation Sainz is taking and that he completely understands why the Spaniard is taking his time. It's interesting conversations he and I have had pretty late into a few nights presented from both sides, he said. My perspective is this. I'm aware I'm wearing a Williams shirt, but I believe so much in what we're doing. That's why I left Mercedes to come here. That's why I'm talking to all of you with the amount of passion I have. I believe in everything we're doing here. I'm in it day to day, and I can see the changes day to day. If I gave you a handful of individuals from our team and said to talk to them about how it was 12 months ago relative to today, and what's going to be there in 12 months, the positive stories would just flow out. That's why I'm positive about it. With Carlos, he can't see much about that. What he looks at is what you can see externally. Where are you? Where do you qualify? Why did you have a bad race here? What's going on here? He has one of the largest OEMs in the world chasing him, Audi, and that's hard to turn down, an OEM that his father has won with. He has a team that has, let's be clear about it, historically beaten us fundamentally, Alpine. That becomes hard to turn down. They won a race not that long ago. I can see that perspective on things. Here's what he told me, which actually resonated the most. The reason why I'm doing this is when I commit, I need to commit with all my heart and all my soul, 100%. And to do that means I can't have any doubts. And that's why it's taking the time. And that resonated with me a lot. Confirming that he would not be interested in signing Sainz at the cost of putting him on a contract that would allow him to leave at any time, Vowles said he reckons the odds of securing Sainz are more than 50%. How's that? He laughed. How confident am I? I think the odds are in our favor. But I've been stunned by this already once this year. So let's see, may the odds be in our favor. The writing has been on the wall for several weeks, but the Belgian Grand Prix definitively proved something that's been on every Formula One fan's mind. Red Bull's RB20 is no longer the best car in the field. Spa-Francorchamps is a favorite track of Max Verstappen, at least when it comes to scheduling engine changes and taking grid penalties. For the past several years, that hasn't prevented the Dutch driver from taking a dominant win. But in 2024, things have changed. In both 2022 and 2023, Max Verstappen secured grid penalties, first for exceeding his quota of power unit elements, then for receiving a new gearbox driveline. The 2022 start was dramatic, as Verstappen had to start from the back of the grid. The 2023 edition saw a 5-place penalty. In 2022, Max Verstappen had moved his way up to 8th place by the end of the first lap, despite starting from the back of the grid. By lap 12, he had secured a lead that no one could touch and managed to take home the extra point for fastest lap as well. The following year, it took Verstappen 6 laps to move his way up from 6th to 3rd. On lap 18, he passed teammate Sergio Perez for the lead. He went on to win by a whopping 22 seconds. In both instances, it was clear that Red Bull Racing had built a massively dominant car, one that no one could even consider challenging for the lead. Max Verstappen was going to win, no matter where he started. In 2024, though, things have changed. Yes, this season began with dominance. Verstappen cruised to victory behind the wheel of his RB20 in 7 of the first 14 events. But beginning in Austria, the RB20 began to lose out. As teams like McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes introduced mid-season upgrades, each of Red Bull's rivals were able to gather just a bit of extra pace. Somehow, though, Red Bull has been unable to respond with counter-upgrades the way it had done in the past. In Austria, Verstappen finished 5th, with the victory going to George Russell. In England, Verstappen took 2nd, just behind Lewis Hamilton. In Hungary, a frustrated Verstappen again took a 5th-place finish as Oscar Piastri secured his maiden F1 win. The signs have been there, leaving fans and media pundits to ask if Verstappen and his RB20 can be still considered the dominant duo. But the 2024 Belgian Grand Prix has definitively proved that's not longer the case. Yes, Verstappen qualified on pole. Yes, he was able to carve his way up through several positions after the start, despite his 10-place grid penalty. But the RB20 simply couldn't race beyond yet another 5th-place finish. Verstappen trailed both Mercedes machines, one McLaren and one Ferrari. In the closing laps, as cameras focused on the Mercedes battle for the lead, Verstappen edged within DRS range of 4th-placed Charles Leclerc. Unfortunately for the Dutch driver, he was never able to get close enough to make a move. Aside from that penalty, nothing worked against Verstappen in the Belgian Grand Prix. His pit stops were comfortably quick, and his strategy theoretically could have worked. But for Verstappen, there was simply no way to overcome the cars at the front of the field. His RB20 no longer has the pace to simply overcome anything in its path. The car is still quick, but it's no longer dominant. And Red Bull will certainly spend its summer shutdown wondering just where its development went wrong. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you guys, and I'll still upload daily videos during the summer break.